Picture this. It's a Saturday night in Las Vegas. The neon is still burning. The fountains at the Bellagio are still dancing. The casinos are still open. But walk through the doors of a major strip property tonight, and something feels profoundly, disturbingly wrong. The floor is quiet. The tables are half-staffed. The slot machines are humming to nobody. This isn't 2009. This isn't 2020. This is right now. And the silence you're hearing isn't random. It was engineered. Hi, my name is Michael, and this is Old Vegas Legends. The night the lights stayed on, but nobody came. The numbers are staggering. In June of 2025, Las Vegas welcomed 3.1 million visitors. Now, that sounds like a lot until you realize that June of 2024 saw 3.49 million. That's a drop of 11.3%. Nearly 400,000 fewer people deciding that Vegas was worth their time and money. Gone, just like that. And it didn't stop there. For the entire first half of 2025, visitation dropped 7.3% compared to the same period in 2024. Over 1.1 million fewer visitors walked the Strip. Harry Reid International Airport reported passenger counts down 6.3% in June alone. Think about what that means in human terms. 1.1 million people. That's not a rounding error. That's a city the size of San Jose, California, deciding collectively that Las Vegas wasn't worth the trip. The hotel numbers are just as brutal. In May of 2025, Strip occupancy dropped to 85.3% from 88.5% the year before. Weekend occupancy, which is supposed to be bulletproof in Vegas, fell from 93.4% to 89.9%. And gaming revenue on the Strip fell 3.9% in May of 2025 compared to May of 2024. That marked 4 consecutive months of decline, 4 in a row. Downtown Las Vegas saw an 11.3% gaming revenue drop in June, 11.3%, the same number as the visitor decline. That's not a coincidence. That's cause and effect, playing out in real time. And here's the detail that should make every casino executive lose sleep at night. Strip casino net income crashed 40.4% in 2024, despite total revenue actually increasing 6.2%. Read that again slowly. They made more money, but kept 40% less of it. How is that even possible? We'll get to that. But the headline is this. The math that casinos have been running for the past several years is breaking down fast. The floor is cracking beneath the chandelier, the compact that built a city. To understand what's being lost, you have to understand what was there in the first place. And I don't think enough people talk about this honestly. Vegas was never really about gambling. I mean, it was, obviously, but that wasn't the soul of it. The soul of it was a deal, an unspoken, unwritten handshake agreement between the city and the ordinary American. And the deal went something like this. You come here. You're going to lose some money, probably. We both know that. The house always wins. That's fine. But in exchange for your losses, we are going to treat you like you matter. We're going to give you a steak dinner that costs less than your utility bill. We're going to comp your room if you play long enough. We're going to let you watch a volcano erupt on the sidewalk for free. We're going to give you a buffet where you can pile your plate next to a doctor from Connecticut and a truck driver from Tennessee, and everyone's equal in front of the prime rib. That was the compact, and for decades, it held. The Mirage opened in November of 1989, and it felt like a miracle. 40,000 people flooded through the doors within the first 30 minutes of opening. Steve Wynn had built something that looked like it belonged in a dream, and somehow, ordinary people could walk right in. The White Tigers. The volcano erupting every 15 minutes while tourists stood slack-jawed on the sidewalk. Free. All of it free, because Wynn understood something that today's casino operators have apparently forgotten. Give people a show they can't get anywhere else, and they'll come. Then they'll gamble. Treasure Island's pirate battles. The Bellagio fountains. The Mirage habitat. These weren't just marketing gimmicks. They were the physical embodiment of the compact. We see you. We value you. You don't need a black card to belong here. A construction worker from Ohio could eat alongside a Manhattan millionaire at the buffet. A retired school teacher from Phoenix could sit at a $5 blackjack table for 4 hours, nurse a free cocktail, and go home having spent $40 on entertainment that felt like $100. That was the genius of it. That was the thing that made Vegas unlike anywhere else on Earth. And then, piece by piece, they tore it down. How the Strip killed its own golden goose. This is the part of the story that makes me genuinely angry. Because what happened to Vegas wasn't an accident. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't economic forces beyond anyone's control. It was a deliberate strategy, openly stated, proudly executed, and catastrophically short-sighted. Caesars Entertainment CEO Tom Reeg said it out loud during a 2023 analyst call. His words, not mine. Quote, "You're kicking out the lowest end. I see no reason that needs to stop, or would stop." End quote. Sit with that for a moment. The CEO of one of the largest casino companies in the world stood in front of investors and proudly announced that his strategy was to drive away customers, not to serve them better, not to compete harder, to eliminate them, to make the experience so expensive, so inhospitable, so stripped of value that the people who built this city would simply give up and stay home. And the execution of that strategy has been thorough. Resort fees have gone from an occasional irritant to a systematic tax on existing. MGM Resorts raised resort fees twice in 2024. Premium Strip properties now charge $45 to $52 per night on top of your already inflated room rate. That's before the 13.38% room tax, before parking, which used to be free and now runs $20 to $40 a day, before the $15 fee MGM quietly started adding for phone bookings in September of 2024. The Mirage volcano, which had been stopping people dead on the sidewalk since 1989, was demolished in August of 2024 to make room for Hard Rock's guitar-shaped tower. On its final night, crowds packed the Strip to say goodbye to one last piece of real Vegas magic. Gone. Treasure Island's pirate shows, which entertained millions over 20 years, permanently shuttered back in 2013. The free attractions that created atmosphere, that gave people a reason to slow down and wander in, systematically eliminated. The blackjack tables tell the same story. According to Vegas Advantage's 2025 survey, the minimum for a 3-to-2 blackjack game in central Las Vegas is now typically $25 to $50, even during off-peak hours. During busy times, it jumps to $100. And 6-to-5 blackjack payouts, which increase the house edge by approximately 1.39% compared to traditional 3-to-2 payouts, have spread across the Strip like a disease. That means when you hit 21 on a $10 bet, you win $12 instead of the $15 you should. The house is literally reaching into your pocket while you're sitting at the table, smiling. And the slot machines. The Nevada Gaming Control Board's 2024 data showed slot hold percentages at 8.23% on the Strip. Downtown Las Vegas held 8.47%. Penny slots, the most popular machines, held nearly 10% of all money wagered. In Reno, the loosest slots in Nevada held no more than 6.16%. Vegas isn't even trying to pretend it's competitive anymore. This is what the deliberate elimination strategy looks like in practice, not one dramatic betrayal. 1,000 small ones, compounding daily, until one day you wake up and the floor is empty. The numbers don't lie, and neither does your wallet. In April of 2025, Jeremy Aguero from Applied Analysis stood in front of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority and delivered a report that should have triggered emergency meetings at every major casino on the Strip. The average visitor spent $1,322 per trip to Las Vegas in 2024. That's a 5% increase from 2023, and it's 53% higher than what visitors spent in 2019 before everything changed. Now your first instinct might be to say, well, inflation. Everything costs more now. Fair point. Inflation is real, but here's where the report gets brutal. Aguero explained precisely where that money went. Higher room rates, resort fees, parking charges, retail shopping, food and beverage costs. Meanwhile, and this is the sentence that should be tattooed on the forehead of every casino executive in Nevada, Spending on gaming, sightseeing, and sports actually decreased. You are spending 53% more per trip than you were 5 years ago. And you're gambling less. Let that sink in for a second. I'll wait. Go get a glass of water. Come back. Because that statistic is the entire story of modern Las Vegas compressed into a single data point. The house isn't just winning at the tables anymore. They're winning before you ever sit down. They're winning in the parking garage. They're winning at breakfast when you pay $30 for cold eggs and a coffee. They're winning when you call to book a room and get hit with a $15 phone fee you didn't know existed. They're winning when you reach for the minibar. Steve Hill, CEO of the LVCVA, told reporters in August of 2025 that the drop in visitation is, quote, at the lower end of the financial spectrum. He acknowledged concerns in what he called the middle third of the market. Translation: the people who kept Vegas alive for 50 years are being priced out, and leadership knows it and is acknowledging it publicly, while the corporations responsible keep raising fees. One comment on X, formerly Twitter, went viral in April of 2025, racking up over 15,000 likes. The user wrote, "The value proposition of Vegas has completely collapsed, overpriced. Everything is worn down, not fun. Younger people don't gamble, not much else to do. There was a time when you could get great value and have a great time. Now you're just feeling ripped off." That comment appeared in an official report to the LVCVA. The Tourism Authority had to formally acknowledge that their own customers were publicly declaring the city no longer provides value. That is not a minor PR problem. That is a 5-alarm fire. The ghost resorts. And while the Strip's established properties are watching their floors empty out, the newest, most expensive properties in Las Vegas history are struggling in ways that would have seemed unimaginable just a few years ago. The Fontainebleau Las Vegas, $3,700. That's the cost per minute of construction if you do the math on the $3.7 billion final price tag. Nevada's tallest building, 173,000 square feet of casino space. 42-foot ceilings that make you feel like you're standing inside a cathedral dedicated to the god of discretionary spending. Celebrity grand opening with Justin Timberlake and Post Malone. Time magazine named it one of the world's greatest places to visit. And within weeks of opening in December of 2023, reports emerged of occupancy rates hovering around 49%. Catastrophic for a property carrying billions in debt. The Strip average at the time was running around 86%. The casino floor, which should have been electric with the energy of a brand new property, sat conspicuously quiet. Analysts visiting in early 2024 reported seeing only 3 tables busy with 1 to 3 players each, and just 4 or 5 slot machines occupied across the entire floor. 60 table game dealers were let go in May of 2025. The resort that had announced 6,250 employees at opening was cutting staff to stem the bleeding. And then there was the nachos incident. I know, stay with me here. A guest named Mike Herman ordered nachos at the sportsbook, waited an hour, and received 6 tortilla chips covered in melted cheese and 4 dipping sauces. The price was $24. He posted the photo. It got 1.2 million views. Other casinos piled on gleefully. 4 Queens offered pulled pork nachos for $12.99. The hashtag NachoGate was born. Fontainebleau became a national punchline. And look, I'm sorry, but 6 chips for $24 in Las Vegas, where the whole mythology of the place is built on value and spectacle and making people feel good, 6 chips. The Fontainebleau's fundamental problem goes deeper than nachos, though. It sits on the wrong end of the Strip. Walk south from the Bellagio, past the Cosmopolitan, past the Venetian, past Wynn and Encore, and you're still not close. The distance from Caesar's Palace to Wynn is 1.1 miles, about as far as most tourists will walk comfortably. The Fontainebleau sits another half-mile beyond that, across from Circus Circus, surrounded by empty lots and strip malls. No monorail connection. Vegas Loop not yet reached. Guests describe cab rides of $20 each way, just to connect with the main strip. In 110-degree summer heat, this is the vicious cycle that kills casinos. Low occupancy leads to reduced revenue, leads to staff cuts, leads to worse service, leads to lower occupancy. Once it starts, stopping it is like trying to catch water with your hands. The Nevada Gaming Commission in May of 2025 accidentally revealed during a public meeting that the Gaming Control Board had been investigating Fontainebleau for possible anti-money laundering violations. The property was allegedly seeking $975 million in refinancing to restructure its debt, $3.7 billion, 20 years to build. And the floor is quiet. The workers nobody's talking about. Here's what gets lost in all the earnings reports and occupancy statistics and corporate press releases. There are people behind those tables. There are human beings carrying those trays. And they are getting absolutely crushed by what's happening to this city. Holly Lang is a 47-year-old cocktail waitress at MGM Grand. Her words, "I'm seeing a lot less tips than I normally would. We've definitely got a lot less foot traffic and a lot less people gambling." That's not an abstract data point. That's a woman watching her livelihood evaporate in real time. One TikTok user who works as a waitress on the Strip said it as plainly as anyone can say anything. Last year around this time, I made $300 to $500 in tips. Today I just walked home with $124. $124 on a shift that a year ago would have put $500 in her pocket. Another Las Vegas server reported that tip revenue decreased by half compared to the previous summer due to aggressive upselling tactics, repetitive restaurant concepts, and a lack of genuine hospitality. When the casino strips away the warmth, when every interaction becomes a transaction, when guests feel squeezed and resentful before they even sit down, they don't tip like they used to. They're not tipping less because they're bad people. They're tipping less because they're angry. And the people absorbing that anger aren't the executives who made these decisions. They're the cocktail waitresses and the dealers and the servers who just showed up to do their jobs. In May of 2025, 60 table game dealers at Fontainebleau were let go effectively immediately. Security handed them a box. That's how it ended. After everything the city promised them, after the $3.7 billion resort that was supposed to be a revolution, security handed them a box. Casino employment is supposed to be the backbone of the Las Vegas economy. These aren't just jobs. They're careers, retirements, mortgages, kids in college. When a casino cuts 60 dealers to save money on a floor that's already empty, it doesn't get more customers. It just guarantees the floor stays empty. The people who built this town with their labor, not just their gambling dollars, are being left behind, and almost nobody in power is talking about it. Where did everybody go? So where did those 400,000 missing June visitors go? Where does a person go when Vegas prices them out? The answers are not encouraging for Strip casino executives. One travel agent put it simply, and I think perfectly. When you can go to an all-inclusive in Mexico cheaper than Las Vegas, you are going to choose Mexico. Vegas used to be a big seller. Hardly anyone asks anymore. Their greed took over. That's a travel agent. Someone whose job is to sell Vegas, saying they can't sell Vegas anymore. The numbers back her up. Online gambling hit $12.68 billion in 2024, competing directly with Vegas's traditional model. Young people have 40 options to gamble on their phones from the comfort of their own home. They don't need to fly anywhere. They don't need to pay resort fees. They don't need to survive the walk from Fontainebleau to the Bellagio in August heat. They can just open an app. Tribal casinos have expanded across the country. You don't need to buy a plane ticket to play blackjack anymore. Regional alternatives like Atlantic City, whatever its own problems, at least don't require crossing a continent. Cruise lines offer all-inclusive packages where the value proposition is transparent and there are no hidden fees waiting in the fine print. Cabo San Lucas, Cancun, Portugal, Greece. Destinations that offer genuine hospitality at prices Vegas hasn't seen since the 1990s. And the Canadian market, which represents Vegas's largest share of international tourism, has been pulling back significantly. Many Canadians stopped traveling to the United States in 2024 and 2025. WestJet, the biggest carrier serving Las Vegas from Canada, reduced Vegas flights by 15%. That's not a weather problem. That's a relationship problem. Small towns on the edges of Las Vegas are seeing something interesting, though. Budget-conscious tourists who still want a desert getaway are checking into newly renovated resorts just beyond the city, where prices are lower and the welcome is warmer. local casinos targeting Nevada residents reported revenue increases of up to 50%, while Strip properties struggled. Why? Because local casinos never forgot that volume matters. They never got the memo that regular people were supposed to be eliminated. The competition is watching Vegas stumble, and they are very happily picking up the customers that Vegas threw away. The Wall Street takeover nobody voted for. Now we need to talk about the root cause, because resort fees and tight slots and 6-chip nacho plates are symptoms. They are not the disease. The disease is what happened when Las Vegas stopped being run by casino men and started being run by Wall Street analysts. MGM Resorts, Caesars Entertainment, Wynn Resorts. These are publicly traded corporations answerable to shareholders who demand quarterly growth. Every single earnings call, every single quarter, executives have to stand in front of investors and explain how they are going to increase revenue and margins. Quarter after quarter after quarter, forever. So, what do? You optimize, you squeeze, you raise resort fees by $3, then $5, then $8. You bump table minimums from 10 to 15 to 25 to 50. You tighten slot hold percentages by 0.04%. Small enough that most players won't immediately notice. Large enough to add millions to the quarterly bottom line. You fire dealers and replace them with automated tables. You close comp lounges that rewarded loyal players and turn them into revenue-generating restaurants, where those same players now have to pay for what they used to earn. MGMCEO. Bill Hornbuckle told investors in February of 2025 that the company aimed to capture $150 million in operational EBITDA opportunities in 2025. EBITDA. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Corporate language for, we are going to squeeze more out of this machine. In the same call, MGM's CFO mentioned they were down in full-time employees across Las Vegas and corporate offices while deploying digital interfaces to handle customer service. Translation: fewer workers, lower costs, less personal service, and a phone tree where a warm human being used to be. Casino consultant Oliver Lovat told NPR in August of 2025, if you're looking for a bargain, because of the way that Las Vegas has changed, it's no longer a bargain destination. A casino consultant. Telling National Public Radio that Vegas is no longer a bargain. That sentence would have been literally incomprehensible in 1995. The Caesars Diamond Lounges, rebranded as Laurel Lounges, spaces where mid to high tier players could relax, grab free drinks, and feel appreciated, were closed during the pandemic, and as of late 2025, most haven't reopened. The Paris location is now a Lisa Vanderpump bar where you pay for drinks. They took away a benefit you earned with years of loyalty and replaced it with a revenue center. The audacity of that move. I mean, I have to hand it to them. That takes a special kind of corporate boldness. One casino company employee posted anonymously about the culture from the inside. I work for one of those greedy corporations, and they are ruining our city. VPs and executives get bonuses for cutting costs and staying under budget while raising prices to astronomical levels. Think about the incentive structure that creates. The executive who figures out how to charge you $21 extra for calling to book your room gets a bonus. The dealer whose table used to feel like the most fun spot in Nevada gets a box from security. This is what happens when accountants run casinos instead of gamblers. The gamblers understood something fundamental about human psychology. People will lose money happily if the experience is worth it. Accountants only see the losing, they don't see the worth. Can Vegas come back? I want to be honest with you here, because I think you deserve honesty more than you deserve optimism. There are some signs the industry is starting to feel the consequences of its own decisions. Caesars CEO Tom Ragg acknowledged in an earnings call that Las Vegas started, quote, leaking as a market in June of 2025. That's a loaded word coming from the same man who proudly announced the strategy of eliminating low-end customers 2 years earlier. When your own plan starts leaking, something has gone wrong. Resorts World Las Vegas has eliminated resort fees, making it the only major strip property to do so. tourism consultant Desiree Stokes-Bloom has publicly called for a moratorium on resort fees across the board. That's 2 voices in a room that needs 100, but it's something. Meanwhile, the Poker Palace, a family-owned casino serving North Las Vegas since 1974, announced it would close permanently in October of 2025, laying off 126 employees. 51 years gone. And only 8 all-you-can-eat buffets remain on the Strip, down from dozens just years ago. The buffet was the great equalizer, the place where everyone stood equal in front of the prime rib. Nearly gone now, too. Real recovery requires something corporate boards are structurally terrible at, admitting they were wrong, walking back years of price increases and broken promises, rebuilding trust with the customers they deliberately drove away. It would require the executives who got bonuses for squeezing to voluntarily unsqueeze. And that, frankly, doesn't happen easily when shareholders are watching every quarter. But here's what I believe. Vegas has been declared dead before. The Rat Pack era faded and people said it was over. 2008 hit and people said it was over. It came back both times. The bones of this city are still extraordinary. The Strip can come back, but not by doubling down on the strategy that emptied the floors. It comes back the same way it always has, by remembering the compact, by treating ordinary people like they matter, by understanding that volume and atmosphere and the feeling that anyone can walk through that door and belong. That's the magic. That has always been the magic, and right now, on too many nights, it's gone quiet. I want to hear from you. If you've been coming to Vegas since the 80s or 90s, if you watched the city transform from something electric and accessible into something cold and expensive, I want your story. If you used to take 4 or 5 trips a year, and now you barely take 1 or none, I want to know why. If you're a worker on the Strip watching your tips disappear and your colleagues lose their jobs, your story matters more than any corporate earnings report. Leave it in the comments. Because the more we talk about this, the more we document what's actually happening versus what the press releases say, the more pressure we put on the people who have the power to change it. This isn't just nostalgia. I know some people will say, oh, you just want the old Vegas back, get over it. But this isn't about nostalgia. It's about a sustainable city. It's about workers keeping their careers. It's about a tourism economy that actually works for everyone who lives and works here, not just for the quarterly earnings reports of 3 publicly traded corporations. Vegas doesn't have to be this way. The empty floors tonight aren't inevitable. They're a choice. And choices can be unmade. If this video opened something up for you, if it put words to something you've been feeling every time you walk the Strip and something feels off, please hit the like button. Subscribe to Old Vegas Legends. We are going to keep pulling on these threads, keep following the money, keep telling the stories that the corporations hope stay quiet. Because somebody has to remember what this city was built on. Regular people, working people, the ones who came back year after year believing in the dream. My name is Michael, this is Old Vegas Legends, and we're just getting started.